Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365, the last Football Friday of the Eagles off-season, if you count training camp as the start. That'll kick off next week. I'm joined now by John McMullen, host of Birds 365. I'm his co-host, Zander, Krause, here on Birds 365. J-Mac, how you doing on this Football Friday, my friend?
Doing well. We actually have an official schedule for the first couple weeks.
Nice.
So that finally in play. And as expected, practices will be at 10 a.m. So next Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, practices, walkthrough on Friday, not open to the media. Players' day off on Sunday, that would be August 2nd. So there you have. We'll have a normal schedule next Friday on Football Friday.
Gotcha.
But as we'll mix it up a little bit on Wednesday, Thursday.
Yep, Wednesday and Thursday will be a little different, and then we'll do some short coverage also on any day that John's down there for practice with football 24/7. So we'll do that on Saturday. We'll keep you guys covered all throughout training camp. I'm excited for them to get out there. John, that's good that you got the schedule a little bit early. I don't know what the following week looks like. We'll talk about that afterward. One, like you always say, one day at a time. In this case, maybe 1 week at a time. We'll do it that way with Eagles training camp. But it is here, John. It is upon us. What's top of mind for you on this Football Friday as we get ready for Eagles camp to kick off next week?
Yeah, I think, the biggest question, which we've talked about sort of ad nauseum, is what, this offense is going to look like. And more to me is why. Why is it going to look like this? I think, I've said it before, the Jeremy Fowler list and, balloting of executives and scouts and coaches, what that tells you, the entire group, is it says the league thinks this is still a really talented team. And, why make a drastic change in the middle of that? Like, that to me is something you do when you're down. I always call it a cyclical industry. At some point you'll be down talent wise, and that's when you start to make changes or start to adjust things. I'm of the belief when you're a Super Bowl contender, and I think this team is from a talent perspective, still not quite where they were at their heights, but still, you try to take advantage of that shelf life. And you have you're almost trying to serve two masters here, which is not easy. And I think it makes things more difficult, but we'll see. I mean, maybe it's all lip service. Maybe it is what just as I kind of think it's going to be. And that's all right. Let's fix first down and everything else will fall into place. Maybe it's as simple as that.
Might be. It might be, John.
Yeah. But, on the surface, it seems strange to talk about a different style of offense with a quarterback that has had the success under a different style. That's not typically what you see in the NFL.
Team success, absolutely. Individually, I guess, could be debated, John, as the last couple of years have tapered off in terms of statistical output. So I guess that's probably where some of that lies when it comes to the quarterback. And I think you're right in terms of the run game. Is it all about just fixing first down and then everything else might look the same? Maybe it is. I also think, John, and you tell me, you've watched a lot of football in your life. How much of it is like a natural evolution that happens every year on every team, no matter what? You know what I mean? Like, isn't there kind of teams change, players change, coaches change, playbooks change, things evolve, things change naturally. I think some of that might be a part of it, obviously, as well.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with, I think people misunderstand. I mean, you constantly evolve just in a normal process. As you said, you get more experience and you feel more comfortable and you improve. And I think you've seen that evolution from when Jalen Hurts took over as starter in 2021 and, up to where we are right now. I mean, he's evolved as a player, but within the same scheme. And I think by and large the same scheme. Yeah. And I think, what's interesting, I think so many people believe they were playing a different style when Shane was here and when Kellen was here than they were when Brian was here and Kevin was here. And they weren't. It's just you're executing, you had more success,
Right.
playing better. And I'm not saying they're not a part of it. They're a part of it. But the basic framework was the same. And I think people think it wasn't. And it was. They ran it back and why wouldn't you, by the way? You won the Super Bowl, you were the most dominant team in football. I would argue you're one of the best teams in the modern era. Why wouldn't you run it back? So for those who think, well, they didn't do the same thing. Yeah, they did. Well, actually, they changed in season, and that's sort of my biggest question mark is like, okay, I look at this and saying they were an 11-win team, but they were really a 12-win team. And if Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson and Lane Johnson were healthy, they're probably a 13 or 14-win team. So I take it as it's one of those seasons, maybe the length of the Super Bowl season contributed, obviously the style of play they contributed, and maybe those guys are never going to be the same. I guess if you make that assessment, it makes more sense. If you're not making that assessment, it's like, why is it, teams caught up versus these guys are just banged up? Now, when Lane's out there and Landon's healthy, which maybe he never will be again, or at least to the level he was, and Cam, like, did people think they didn't know what the Eagles were doing in 2024? It's one of the most simplified offenses in football.
Right.
You see anybody stop it? Well, plenty of people stopped it. They had bad games, but you get the point. The overriding assumption is, people caught up. No, they knew what was going on. The Eagles just played better.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I mean, the other thing, John, and you tell me how you think this ties in. I was listening to I just had the TV on SEC Network, listening to the media day, and not your favorite person, but remove the messenger and listen to the message. Lane Kiffin was talking about personal growth, and no, but it was I thought it was a good.
I don't have anything against Lane other than
I know he's not here, and I know he's not your
plays. Yeah, I don't like the smarmy world of college football. But he's just a part of it.
He's just a part of it. That's right. Yeah. So he was talking though about personal growth, and I wouldn't go personal with this. I would go growth in general. And he said a lot of people focus on adding new habits when it comes to personal growth, but many times subtracting negatives can be even more impactful in that growth. And it made me think of the Eagles from a sense of you telling me, stop trying to add motion and this to the offense and fix first down, And maybe in the case of personnel, I certainly think A.J. Brown's a hell of a football player. Maybe though that mentality that he was taking, or that the disdain that he was growing toward the offense, maybe that became more of a negative in the locker room than a positive. And maybe there is a chance that addition by subtraction, just from a collective, could be a part of that. I don't know what you think of that, but I do think, maybe that is a way we can look at this offense, where if they can get rid of what's the glaring negatives, it might be on its way to being much better than it was a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, and look, addition by subtraction is a real thing. I always point to the Mike Tomlin quote, which is one of my favorites, and that's, you want volunteers, not hostages. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter how gifted you are. if you don't want to be somewhere anymore, you're not contributing to the final goal. It's just impossible. So, at that point, when you reach that point, I don't care how gifted, and you've seen it so many times with, think about Tyreek Hill leaving Kansas City, and everybody's like, well, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? And they recovered. They certainly weren't the same team. They certainly didn't play the same style. They certainly, didn't have big plays all over the place. In fact, they struggled a little bit as they learned.
Maybe that's the best case for why the Eagles should be changing. There's no AJ Brown anymore.
Well, but again, the change wasn't schematic. The change was, well, we don't have a guy who can blow the top off every defense that ever lived. So we have to play a different style, and we have to be more dink and dunk. And Patrick Mahomes had a little bit of trouble with that at the start because he was so used to chunk plays and big plays. And all of a sudden you got to be patient and, use 15 plays and don't make mistakes. And you have to play a different style, not from, again, a schematic standpoint, just from a personnel standpoint. And that's similar. And I don't want to compare AJ to Tyreek Hill or different style of player, but very big play, 50-50 balls. We know the go routes. You've seen it, even though so many Eagles fans want to dismiss it now. You've seen his strengths, the hitch routes, the one-on-one. He's winning one-on-one. He's open when he's not open. That's why he has the always open, because of his body and his frame. You don't have that anymore. So, people say, they're not running as many hitch routes. They're not running as many hitch routes because they don't have AJ Brown anymore. Would be the something. So it's more personnel than anything else. And it leans you in a different direction. What are the strengths of Mekhi Lemon? What are the strengths of Dontavian Wicks? And you try to take it, which is in both cases, route running and separation at the top of routes. You try to take advantage of that. And that, a lot of that's going to be on Jalen Hurts as well. The ball's got to come out. So we're going to see how it looks, but they definitely have to play differently because they don't have AJ Brown. Doesn't mean they can't be successful. As I said, Kansas City certainly played differently. And, they'll probably struggle a little bit early as they grow into it. But, I mean, I don't know if people will notice because they were so bad. That's the good part for Sean Mannion. They were so bad last year offensively.
Yeah, right.
And the perception, obviously, is that they have all this talent. I got another text yesterday about I get, and this is inside the league. This isn't fan base or even media base. This is inside the league. It's like the fact that they can't produce with that kind of talent. How many times have I heard that? How many times? I'm like, when are people going to catch up that it's not what it once was? And the Eagles are signaling it. Now, AJ's the obvious one. But again, the offensive line may never be what it once was because of the injuries. Hopefully that's wrong. But, Dallas Goedert's been a great player for a long time. I think everybody can agree he's reached the apex and he's coming down the hill.
Yeah.
I think most people would agree with Saquon, probably coming down the hill. Other than Tyler Steen, who's going up the hill?
I mean,
I would say Devontae.
You can't say Cam.
I would say Devontae and Jordan Mailata are still maintaining.
You don't think Devontae's going up the hill?
Not from I think he's maintaining. He's already great. I mean, people will think he's going up because his numbers will probably be better.
Yeah,
but
all right. I see what you're saying. Like from a talent perspective, he
yeah,
was already pretty damn polished.
yeah. So I think they're maintaining with Cam. Yeah, he'll probably be better than last year. So again, the ascent. But I'm saying overall, is he ever going to be what he was pre-back injury?
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably not. Like, I don't know when people are going to catch up to that. It's not as good as it looks on paper. And I think, and people say,
Yeah, but
because
I still don't. I mean, I get.
because
I think your point is
like,
right. That
because people claim I like Kevin Petula, which I do personally, and I think he deserves some dispensation for people realizing that. I say the same thing with Sean Mannion. He deserves the same kind of dispensation because people overrate this offense because of the names, because of the big names. It's the big name trap.
I don't disagree, but are you telling me that last year was an appropriate output for the even if you don't think the talent was what fans think it was?
No,
whatever John McMullen thinks it was.
I don't, but I think it's mainly injury related. I think it's mainly
on the offensive line. I mean, I still
three
think
injuries on the offensive line, but I think that's what hampered the offense the most. Those
I just
three
don't get though, John.
injuries.
I mean, the offensive line wasn't graded that low, dude. I mean, they weren't that bad.
Yeah,
we talk about them like they were legitimately the worst.
No, I don't. I say they're bottom of the top 10, somewhere in that range, which is good compared to the rest of the league. It ain't good for what they were getting the year prior, which again was one of the best offensive lines in literally the history of football. One of the best ever. When you compare it to that, it was a stark difference. When you compare it to the rest of the league, yeah, it's above average, pretty good. It's still pretty good. But, pretty good isn't what it was the year prior. Where I think to the same thing, it masked a lot of the issues the year prior because it was so good. And last year it alleviated a lot. It highlighted a lot of the issues because it was just run of the mill good.
Right. So what do you think then they will actually do? Because it's something we've discussed, all offseason. There are a lot of people are different in different areas on how much they think you're going to change. But let's go back to my theory that I heard from Lane Kiffin, subtracting the negatives. What was the biggest negative on the Eagles offense last year? First down. You've said it 450 times on this show this summer. If they fix first down, or even just go from negative yards or whatever the heck they had last year to 3 to 4 yards per play, is that enough? And then my other question to that would be, how are they going to do that?
Well, they're going to do it by, they think they're going to do it by this particular running scheme, being able to pick up some of the junk, as they call it, and do some of the adjustments. So, again, anybody's in the gun with an offset running back tips off what they're going to do in the run game if they're going to run. It's nothing new. They've been playing in the gun for years around the NFL. But it does make it a little bit easier for the defense to project which way the running back is going to go. They believe that this will give Saquon more options. And again, it's good for him, not necessarily good for the quarterback in the running game. If you're under center, but we'll see how much of that is real. Certainly looked real in the spring, which, maybe they're just practicing it. In other words, if they're under center, and I'm not counting tush pushes, anything of that nature, because that or any quarterback sneak, because that's not relevant. But if they're under center in the middle of the field, more than 50% of the time. Obviously, that's not going to help the quarterback in the running game. And maybe they've assessed again. That's probably the biggest question. Is that off the table? But so if it's off the table, it's going to be more difficult. And nobody, to my knowledge, nobody knows that answer. But if we're in a Donovan McNabb situation where the quarterback has said, "Look, I'm not doing that anymore," they're in a quandary, and maybe that explains things if that's the case, because then you got to try, and that makes the most sense. Then you have to try something. But I don't like the odds of that.
Well, I think John McMullen, I'm not going to speak for you, but it seems as though you have a different way of viewing things than most fans do. And I think that's a good thing. That's why many tune into this show to hear what you have to say. What do you think, John, with all the things you just said, what do you think is actually necessary for the quarterback to evolve on this year?
Well, I think, again, I think he evolves every year. I think that just comes with experience.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, this year specifically with what they're trying to accomplish.
If they're trying to play this offense by hook or by crook, I mean, it starts from almost square one with fundamentals and technique and footwork that he's not used to. You got to master that. And then you have to become a pure progression quarterback for the most part. So that's the old, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even though, again, the savvier and smarter you are, you're going to rule out, you're going to decipher what the coverage is, rule out, and keep it high, low, check down, or low, high, check down, whichever. So, I mean, that processing is the biggest part, but number one is the footwork and the fundamental technique of it. And then you get to the processing, and then you get to the trusting what you see and all that kind of stuff, which in the past, it's taken Jalen a long time to trust receivers. Well, he doesn't have a long time. So he's got to take that Kirk Cousins approach, which is, I don't care if Drake London's out. Next guy up, I'm going to throw him the football if that's where the football is supposed to go. You got to take that approach as a quarterback. And sometimes you're going to look like an asshole because sometimes Jalen Reagor's going to be out there running the wrong route.
Right. And they're going to let you down and you're going to look bad because of it.
Yep. And you got to be able to say, part of my job. And look, nobody's going to make excuses, and they're going to say, what the hell is that throw? I go back to that.
But that's why this show exists for you to educate and tell people where it's not on him. So I think that'll be important this year, John.
Yeah. And, but can he do it? That is a tough.
I think
tough
he
thing.
can do it. I think there's a mental aspect of him that doesn't want to let
that's
it
what
go.
I mean. The mental aspect is you gotta be Drake London's hurt. Kadarius Hodge is out there.
Is that the overtime pass that Kirk Cousins made to win the game?
Yes.
Banging play.
Yes. It's Drake London's play. He's hurt. He's out. It worked. Guy's open. Trust him throwing the ball, win the game.
Boom.
Now, if he fucked it up, you might have an interception, lose the game.
Right.
But you as the quarterback can only do what you're supposed to do. And you got to trust that's why I say trust is a big thing. He obviously trusts Devontae. He obviously trusts Dallas. With Mekhi, the history is it takes him a while with newer people. Well, he's got to trust those guys right away. And they're going to make some mistakes. But And then we'll see how Nick Sirianni lightens up on those things himself. I mean, the coach is part of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, I said this the other day. If we're going to have this desire as a fan base or as a team or whatever, that Jalen moves the ball in this offense, if it's as different as we think it might be, we're going to have to live with a couple more interceptions. I mean, it's just going to have, as you just explained, I mean, there's going to be some miscommunications. There's going to be some lapses. There's going to be some problems where it's the receiver's fault and or Jalen's fault sometimes. I mean, that's part of it. I think at least, Now I know they want to be risk averse and you don't want to just go crazy with that, but I don't think we should go into it with, oh my gosh, he threw an interception. The sky is falling. It is what it is. You got to, what they have to do, I think, is increase their margin for error to make up for those interceptions if they do come.
Yeah, well, it's a tough, it's a tough back and forth. I mean, I don't think you have a high volume offense, so you got to be careful with that. They're probably better suited to play risk averse, which is why they were playing that way.
Right.
So yeah, it's a difficult question to answer, but if you don't have the +1 in the running game, if that's off the table for the most part, or it's similar to last year, obviously there'll be some of it, but similar to last year, I mean, that makes more sense than anything. As far as why the change came, but that's locked down. I mean, you talk about things that are locked down. Like I nobody knows why that was taken away, but I kind of look at it like, why would the coaching staff do that? So I kind of look that it's got to be Jalen, but I don't know that for 1,000%. Could be organizational, could be, but I find it hard to believe it would, I don't believe Jeffrey Lurie's gotten to the point where he's saying, look, you can't play this style. So, I mean, you're only playing the odds, but it's more likely that Jalen wants to increase his shelf life. And you're trying to acquiesce to that. And it was ugly the first year.
I want to talk about trust here, John. Any concern on Mekhi Lemon missing some of the offseason work? I'm not sure if he'll be ready for next week. I'm not sure if you've heard anything on that, but Jalen was down in Florida. That's good. Jalen was down in Florida. I think he had Devontae out there. He had Wicks out there. He had Elijah Moore out. He had a lot of dudes out there. Maybe that will help with the trust factor this year, working on what they're, I assume he's talked to Mannion enough to know what they're going to try and accomplish. If he's allowed to talk to Mannion, I'm sure they've skirted that in some ways, however they need to. But could that be a factor for Jalen that he hasn't gotten as much work with Mekhi Lemon, or do you think training camp will be enough to get that up to speed?
Training camp should be enough. They were just being cautious, obviously, in the spring. And Mekhi had a kids camp in, I believe, Aston or somewhere in the suburbs of Pennsylvania. And he said he's fine. He's ready to go. But yeah, I mean, you prefer the spring's not that important for veteran players, but it's important for younger players. So I don't want to dismiss it completely. And it would have been nice if he was out there more. The more concern is hamstrings can be, easily aggravated when you have one. AJ did it last year. He was ramping up to get back, and he tweaked it again. So, you got to be cautious from that standpoint. But the Ben Simmons stuff, that's what I call those off-season videos of, you see those in every team. It's become a, a thing. You have to in the modern NFL, because you don't get as much practice time, you have to stay in shape. You have to do things. So that's become part of the gig. I never take that stuff too seriously, but other than, I would take it more seriously if a quarterback didn't do that. You see that in every NFL city where they bring some guys down to wherever they train. It would be more concerning if you didn't hear about that than if you did. It's just sort of par for the course now in the NFL.
All right, John, coming into camp next week, a name that's new to the Eagles this year, but I think will have a big role on the Eagles is going to be Dontavian Wicks. What should we expect from Dontavian Wicks, and what will be out of the ordinary if we hear something from camp? In other words, I think you're going to hear a lot about him being wide receiver 2 on the outside. That to me seems to be, normal because of his skill set as compared to Mekhi Lemons. What are you looking for at camp from Dontavian Wicks, and what should fans expect to hear about Dontavian Wicks in terms of where he's lining up and where his role is on the offense?
Well, if they're out there in 12 personnel with 2 tight ends and he's not one of the receivers early, that would be a concern. And if it were Mekhi, like right away, that would be a concern, because you want Mekhi to earn it. What you're going to hear about is he catching the football cleanly or not? The reputation coming from Green Bay was he dropped a little bit too many footballs, and certainly in the spring he had some issues there, and didn't always catch the football cleanly as well when he did catch it. So I think that's going to be the main highlight when it comes to Dontavian Wicks. And if he's catching the ball cleanly, you're going to hear a lot of positive stuff. If he starts dropping it, you're going to hear a lot of negative stuff, because he's had a lot of drops in Green Bay. So I think that's what everybody's going to be focused on with Dontavian Wicks. But if it starts on Wednesday and Mekhi's out there with, DeMonte and 12, that's a bad sign for Dontavian Wicks. And I don't think that's going to happen. And, we're going to see the consistency and whether he can sort of tighten that up. I think that's very important. And don't sleep on Hollywood Brown as well, because if either of those guys, if Mekhi struggles as a rookie, sort of latching on to things, I think Hollywood Brown's going to end up getting a lot of first-team reps, because they want to make sure that the contingency plan is up to speed as well.
Well, we'll see what that looks like with that. I think Dontavian Wicks, are we underrating him? I mean, how would you compare him to somebody like Jahan Dotson?
Well, Jahan is more physically gifted. He can run faster. I would say Dontavian's a better route runner. Jahan certainly has better hands. You've seen, when they did throw him the ball, he made some really nice catches. So I don't know. Jahan was the 16th pick in the draft, though, or something like that. I mean, he's very physically gifted. Wicks is, he's not the fastest guy in the world. And his staple is route running. He's a very good route runner. Trying to what he ran coming out, which was 4.58, which is not good for an NFL receiver. Which is why he was drafted where he was drafted, which was the 5th round. Now, in Green Bay, he made some plays and he showed up, and again, the consistency wasn't there. And they're very deep at wide receiver. But you have to be a little concerned because they said that essentially that he wasn't one of their top 4 receivers. And the Eagles see something that they think, he topped out at 39 receptions. He's never had more than 39. So a lot is expected of him. And when you hear things like 4 drops with somebody who catches 100 balls, it's not
Right.
great. When you hear somebody with 4 drops who catches 30 to 40, that's not good.
Right.
So that's what you have to keep your eye on.
Makes sense, Johnny Mac. I think Dontavian will have a pretty good year. How many catches are you expecting? I know you're not a stat guy, but just in terms of trying to get a gauge on what type of volume that you think he's going to see, where are you putting him at? I mean, AJ did get 120 targets last year, so in theory, that ball has to go somewhere. I don't think they're all going to Devontae Smith. I don't know how it gets divvied up. Maybe it's more Devontae and Goddard take most of them. How do you see that happening? How many catches are you expecting?
I mean, it's
for Wicks?
You got to produce. I mean, if he's the 3rd receiver, obviously it's not a great projection under the prior offensive scheme. So things have changed in theory. If you're a 3rd receiver in an average NFL offense, a Shanahan offense, you're probably talking 40 to 50 at least. But you do it a lot of ways, and maybe not. I'd have to look at San Francisco because San Francisco has Kittle and McCaffrey. They're 2 best players. So I mean, they're heavy running back, tight end oriented in the passing game, and maybe the Eagles go that way. But certainly a tight end, I think. Dallas might be the best fit for this offense. Not necessarily Saquon, but when it comes to dumping the ball off, and maybe it's Will Shipley, who knows? But if he's number 2, he's got to catch 60 at least. Healthy over 17 games. But yeah, I wouldn't expect 80 or 90 or anything like that.
No, yeah, I think that's fair. All right, good stuff there, Johnny Mac. We got one super chat. All super chats we will take today. Appreciate everybody being here on a Football Friday, the last Football Friday until camp starts and the Eagles season is right around the corner. Everybody, here's our guy Joshua Jackson. What's up, Joshua? Thank you for the super chat today. He says this: we focus on Hurts's flaws, but how valuable is his ability to consistently deliver in biggest games, parentheses, clutch gene, compared with Allen and Lamar?
I mean, look, no one's denying. I just wrote about Jalen earlier this week, and the title was Intangibly Great, because a lot of his greatness is tied into intangibles, which is difficult for people to understand. Things like the clutch gene, his work ethic, his ability to play well on the biggest stages that everybody has seen in the past, or at least, certainly Super Bowl 57, Super Bowl 59 was kind of on a platter, but I digress. But the funny thing is, like, was San Francisco not a big game last year? Like, anytime you lose, anytime you lose and you don't win the Super Bowl, like, that loss is a big game. Was Tampa Bay not a big game? So I think perceptions are skewed. Now, the bottom line is Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson are going to be criticized until they win a Super Bowl, if they ever win a Super Bowl. That's just the life of the quarterback position. Obviously, they're playing with different supporting cast. One of the things why most people, I say it's Joe Burrow, but while most people default to Josh Allen as the best quarterback in the NFL right now, one of the reasons why is because he elevates a less than impressive supporting cast.
Right.
What could he do with a better supporting cast? Maybe he still is a little bit too reckless. That's always been my.
Yeah, he had nobody on the top receiver list when we did that from Jeremy Fowler.
Yeah, that's always been my biggest problem. He's still, he's gotten a lot better. In fact, I think there's this narrative that he throws a lot of interceptions. He doesn't. But he's a little bit, and most of it's been fumbles and the running aspect. At one point he threw too many interceptions, but I think he's thrown 6 in 2024 and 10 last year. So obviously that's acceptable. But I mean, what could he do with a better? That's the part that frustrates me. And when I say quarterback evaluation is broken, like, no offense to you, Josh, or anybody else, but it's not a vacuum. It's not like, oh, he won the Super Bowl. That means Jeff Hostetler and Jim Plunkett and Nick Foles are better than Dan Marino. They're not. So, is Jalen Hurts a better quarterback than Josh Allen? He's not. Is Jalen Hurts a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson? He's not. Does he have a tremendous work ethic? Yes. Does he have an intangible ability to elevate his game in Super Bowls to this point? Yes. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. Never have been, never will be.
Fair enough. Also, I would push back on the part of that we focus on Hurts's flaws. I don't really think that's the case. I mean, I think we talk about the game and the team, and some of those flaws are more apparent at different times than others. But that's a part of it. And it's a part of any football team, by the way. You talk about any team, I promise you're going to talk about the quarterback and what they could have done or would have done or should have done better. It's just a reality.
I'm going to give Emmanuel Acho a rare
kudos,
applaud. He used a term which I love, and I'm telling him on air I'm going to steal it from him because I love it. He was talking about the inflation of the quarterback position, which I loved. I love that description. He was talking about Jalen being number 56 on the top 100 list. And he was talking about the inflation of the quarterback position. People overvalue the quarterback position because it is what it is. Good and bad. They blame the quarterback more when things are going bad, and they give them too much credit when things are going well. You cannot win without a good supporting cast. I don't care what anybody tells you. Nobody's ever won a Super Bowl with a bad supporting cast. Not one quarterback. Whether you think Tom Brady's the best or Peyton Manning or anybody else. If you want to go back to the glory days of the 70s and Bradshaw, if you want to go to Montana, if you want to go any dominant quarterback, they never won without a good supporting cast. Doesn't exist.
I agree with that. All right, Johnny Mac, good stuff. We have Mark Farzetta coming up in hour number 2, so we'll talk to Mark Farzetta here in a little bit. I want to thank everybody for being here. Joshua Jackson, thanks for your super chat today. I see everybody in the chat. We appreciate you being here on a Football Friday. If you can believe it, everybody, we've made it. The season is kicking off next week in terms of training camp. And then I believe we're well under now 50 days. I think it's like 47 or 46 days away from the NFL opener, which means the Eagles home opener or season opener, is probably about 50 days away. John, they open like September 13th this year?
13th, September 13th, Washington at Lincoln Financial Field, I believe.
51 days. 51 days out from the Eagles home or season opener.
I think the preseason opener is August 15th in Baltimore. That's coming up quick.
Oh yeah, that's coming up real quick. Is that where it is, Baltimore?
Yeah.
Yeah, August 15th. That's a 7 p.m. What is August 15th? What day of the week? A Saturday. A Saturday. They why do they love to do that on the preseason? Yeah, we're going to make you cover the preseason. And not only that, we're going to slap it on a Saturday night for you, Johnny Mac.
Yeah. Plus, anybody who's tried to get through 95 on a weekend over the Delaware Memorial Bridge.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my Lord. I almost have started to think maybe I'll drive west and go to Lancaster and go that way. It'll probably take less time.
Definitely probably less stressful too. All right, and then they have the Patriots are the following week, which is also on a Saturday. I don't understand that, but
that's AJ week.
That's AJ week. Do they have the joint practice that week? Would that be like what?
Joint
Tuesday, Wednesday?
Practices are August, I believe, 19th and 20th. And then there's a day off before the preseason game.
Nice. All right. So Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday they're off, and then Saturday's the preseason game. That'll be. What do you think that coverage is going to be like with AJ back in town?
It's going to be so overblown. But I mean, listen, it's a preseason environment. Like, you're going to, they lost the practice, they won the practice. So AJ, it's going to mean nothing 2 weeks later. But I mean, it's important from the team standpoint. But again,
do you think it will be at all like not awkward, but like odd for AJ to already be back in Philly for a practice?
He's not gonna. It's in Foxborough.
Oh, it's in Foxborough. Okay.
And certainly not with his. He's friends with the vast majority of everybody. Loves AJ. So. I don't think it'll be that big of a deal, but it'll be blown up to be the biggest thing in the history of the world. It'll be all over. Well, I don't even know. Does NFL Network still exist? I don't even know because ESPN took it over. I don't know what's going on, but they fired Tom Pelissero, which is absurd, by the way. But
that I agree with that. That was absurd.
So. It'll be all over whatever the programming is, whatever ESPN is, the lord of everything, whatever they're throwing out there, it'll be all over it. It'll be the headline. It'll be all encompassing.
Good stuff. All right. Looking forward to that. We got some exciting stuff coming up compared to what we've been talking about, Johnny Mac. I got to thank my guy here, Tyler Braswell, gives 5 JAKIB memberships. Thank you guys very much.
What about gems? Have we got any gems? Have we figured out what gems are?
I don't want gems. I'd rather get a super chat where somebody can contribute to the conversation. I always like hearing what the people want to ask John McMullen here on the show. But I got some updates too coming for memberships. All right. So Tyler, that's going to be a clutch gifting right there. I'm working now on getting some jerseys to do some giveaways again this year and stuff like that. So I'll have some updates for you all soon once I know a little bit more. It's the middle of the off season. So, John, you get it. People don't answer their phone as quick. People emails take a couple extra days to get returned, things of that nature. So I think once we get a little bit more into football time, we'll have some more answers on that. But that'll be
everybody's dragging their feet. They don't want to get back into the grind.
Yeah. Yep.
I understand that pain. I gotta psych myself up at this stage. It takes me 3 days. I gotta psych myself up starting on Sunday.
Starting Sunday. Is that when you're getting ready to rock and roll? You're gonna go through uh the personal. What's your methods to psych yourself up?
Um,
You ever seen Entourage, John?
yeah, I do.
Johnny Drama, a little ooh good.
Yeah, not to that degree, but a lot of self-affirmation.
All
A
right,
lot of
there you go.
more Stuart Smalley.
Did AJ teach you some of that self affirmations? He likes that
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
Too.
AJ, yeah, AJ was always an interesting person to
Yeah, he
talk to.
was.
Well, he still is, but I just won't
All
get
right.
to talk to him as much. But
All right, good stuff. All right, good stuff, Johnny Mac. Can you continue rolling on here on the Birds 365 Football Friday edition? We talked a little bit about Dontavian Wicks earlier. John, I want to ask you about something we've obviously already talked about earlier in the season or earlier in the offseason, but what do you make of their schedule this year, and how do you think it plays to kind of what their not their problems, but what they're trying to do this year? I mean, you talked about that week when we had the week 5 bye, how it played to their favor. Anything jump out at you at their schedule?
boy, I got to look at it. I mean, I remember when we were talking about it, and I thought it was positive from the standpoint of, um, I think that the tougher stuff comes later in the season when, in theory, they should have their feet on the ground from an offensive perspective. But I think if you look at Washington at home, look, it could start right there. Washington doesn't look like a good team on paper. It doesn't look like they have a great roster, but they do have Jaden Daniels. So if he's healthy, and he's obviously going to be revved up, going through what he went through last season. He was one of the quarterbacks they followed on the Netflix show, and he had a really difficult season. So he's going to be really motivated. But I mean, that's a spot at home opener. The Eagles should win the football game. I'm saying it's possible that Jaden Daniels could just will the Commanders to a win, which I think would be. I think the angst would be started quickly then, because the Eagles are a better football team. Then they're at Tennessee in week 2. I mean, one of the worst teams in the NFL. New coach, new offensive coordinator that the Eagles wanted. And Warden the second year, but they got a long way to go. I mean, that
I'm
is
falling for it in the first 4 weeks.
what's that?
I'm not falling for it in the first 4 weeks, win or lose. They were 4-0 last year.
Well, I think I think
they were
you
7-7 the rest of the way.
I think you should be concerned if they lose to Tennessee. And then you have at Chicago, which is a difficult game, and the Rams here, which is a difficult game. So, there's a chance if you lose one of those first 2 games that things could get kind of ugly. But I'm not as sold on Chicago as some people. The Rams are great. It's just a matter of how great and how healthy they can stay. And even though that game's at Lincoln Financial Field, I'm probably picking the Rams in that game. They're the best team in football on paper. But I mean, they outplayed the Eagles here last year, and the Eagles won. I wouldn't count on winning that way again, but they won the football game.
Yeah.
So
I think the back of the schedule is where things are tough, actually.
Yeah, well, they
Just
have
from a defensive. They got Seahawks, Texans, Niners, Colts.
Yeah,
they have
and you can throw Indy. I mean, Indy. I think people forget Indy was a good team before Daniel Jones got hurt. A very good team, and we have to see how he recovers. But you have that stretch of Indy, Seattle, Houston, at San Francisco. But the good thing is, their first 3 are at home. So you're playing Seattle at home. You go out there, and that's a loss. It's one of the toughest places to play. But you have them here. Houston, you have them here. We'll see where they are with CJ Stroud by that point. San Francisco, I'm not as enamored with as some people. It's ironic. I was warning everybody they were going to make the playoffs last year, but that's because they had the fourth place schedule. Now I'm warning everybody about Detroit for the same reason. Don't sleep on Detroit. Everybody's all on Chicago. Detroit's going to win that division. Mark my words. I think Chicago's going to take a step back.
I agree on Chicago. I mean, they lost Dahlman, and he really changed that team a little bit up. So I think they're going to take a step back too. I don't know how much though. I do like Ben Johnson, John. I'm a Ben Johnson guy. I gotta be honest.
Everybody's a Ben Johnson guy.
Yeah, it's true.
A little bit. He's a little bit got a little. He's the guy offensively now. He's going to usurp Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. I don't know when, but it's coming, and it's coming quickly. To the point that Press Taylor might get a head coaching job. He already got.
When he was with Doug Peterson, he was a steaming pile of crap. Now he's with.
Well, he's with Doug twice. He was with Doug in Jacksonville as well. And now he's the offensive coordinator in Chicago for people that don't know. So the great Ben Johnson hired Press Taylor. Remember that. But he's got some of the same issues that McVay and Kyle. He gets so bogged down with the offense that, maybe some other things get by him because football's a team game. For those who don't like CEO coaches, they don't pivot quickly if they're struggling in special teams or defense or yada yada yada. So, and there's the game management aspect as well. But offensively, yeah, you can't really complain about anything he does. He's way ahead of the curve as far as aggression, which I love. Like, he understands. They're 3rd and 5 to the point of the Eagles in fixing first down more than anybody else. If Ben Johnson's 3rd and 5 when he was in Detroit, when he's in Chicago, they're probably going to run the ball because he knows he's going for it on 4th down. So if you turn 3rd and 5 in the 4th and 1, 4th and 2, it's taking candy from a baby for him. And that's what the Eagles have to get back to. So I love the aggression part of what some people hate. Obviously, when it doesn't work, you're the dumbest guy in the world. You've seen it with Detroit. But that is so impactful. If you're playing cautiously in the modern NFL, you're in trouble, man. You're in trouble because that's where analytics have jumped up. Too many people have figured out, like, you have to be aggressive when you're plus 50 and it's 4th and short. You have to be aggressive. And I'm talking from first quarter on, you have to be aggressive. And the Eagles actually were the leaders of that. And super, Doug Peterson era when they had a huge advantage. Now, the problem is everybody's caught up. Most people have caught up, not everybody. And you don't have as big as an advantage. So maybe you got to amp it up even further, like Ben Johnson has lapped them.
We'll see.
He's always had big-time talent as well. So obviously the skill people in Detroit, the offensive line in Detroit. And then he goes to Chicago and he's got Caleb Williams. And all of a sudden they spend $1 million, I'm like Dr. Evil here, $1 billion on the offensive line. And they turn the offensive line around in one off season. And, you have young playmakers. They hit on Colston and Loveland. They're like the Rams. They got like 3 good tight ends. They got young receivers. They got a nice 1-2 punch in the backfield with Monungai and Swift. So they're very Detroit. They're like Detroit light. Good offensive line, good playmakers. Right. They have a bigger playmaker quarterback, but he's not as savvy. So that sort of like a give and take.
He's got to take some steps forward with that this year. That quarterback.
Yeah, he still makes too many mistakes, but if he figures it out, man, look out. He's gifted.
He's a good player. Yeah, he is very gifted. Maybe one of the most in the league right now. John, who do you think wins the NFC East? I think you've already said this, but who do you got?
Yeah, I got the Eagles. I mean, Dallas, it wouldn't surprise me if Dallas won. Anybody else, it would surprise me. The Giants jump up, if the Commanders jump back, that would surprise me. To me, it remains a 2-horse race. And the Eagles are the more well-rounded team. But Dallas is clearly better offensively. The Eagles are clearly better defensively. They probably have the advantage on special teams because of Aubrey. It should be close, barring obviously injuries to the quarterback would impact. But that's
built in. Yeah,
that's built in.
How much do you think Harbaugh does for the Giants? Clearly,
I think he'll do a lot, but I think that it's a multi-year thing. It's not just they have a long way to go. And I'm a bigger Jackson Dart fan than most probably because Vic likes him, but he's still, if you're talking about quarterbacks in this division, he's clearly number 4. They lost Dexter Lawrence, so the strength of their defense it's still good, and it could be even better if Arbel Reese turns into something. But Abdul Carter didn't exactly hit the ground running last year. So what? So many people, Arbel Reese, I mean, I don't know why it's so hard to get people to say, just because you're good at Ohio State doesn't mean you're going to step in the NFL and be a star right away. Occasionally it happens, but more often there's Abdul Carter than Micah Parsons, to use the Penn State comparison. Takes some time.
Fair enough. We'll see what happens with that, Johnny Mac. And then Washington, they have obviously had that big season 2 seasons ago, went back to earth. I think, Jaden Daniels got hurt. What are you going to do about that? But if Jaden bounces back, what do you think their ceiling is this year? What's your expectation on that team coming into the year?
Well, I don't think they have a good roster, but he is the kind of guy who can elevate people around him. He is another in the tremendously gifted category. That was a draft where it went 1-2 quarterback, and they deserved to go 1-2. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels. They are big time players. So he makes it like, if you're lining up with Marcus Mariota, who, it's one of the better backup quarterbacks in this league, whether people understand it or not. You're saying, well, the Eagles, that's a day off for the Eagles. But Jaden Daniels, you're like, you gotta be careful. But I just don't like the roster overall. A lot of holes. Obviously, the defense was a disaster last year. Not a ton of playmakers to help Jaden Daniels. Their best running back is Bill Corey Karofsky Merritt. I mean, Terry McLaurin's still their best receiver at his age.
How do you get Bill out of Ja'Cory?
I don't know. That's what they call him, right?
Yeah, I remember. I think you told this story. I don't remember what it is. How the hell do you come up?
Yeah. I mean, they don't have playmakers. And it's one thing if you have a great offensive line. Their offensive line's okay. It's just average. Hopefully Josh Connerly gets it going. I know the Eagles loved him coming out, but
yeah, that's right.
Their receivers are Terry McLaurin.
It's Jalen or bust, John. He either plays like a superstar or it's bust.
Yeah, he's got to elevate. He doesn't have a great supporting cast. And they drafted Sonny Styles in the top 10, so maybe they've moved on from Bobby Wagner, at least to this point. I find it hard to believe. Did Bobby Wagner sign anywhere yet?
I thought is he not back there?
No. I don't think so.
He's free agent, I think, right now.
That guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer. One of the best linebackers I've ever seen. Even in 2025, even in a bad season, at some point you got to move on. Like, I get it. He's 36 years old.
He was still in the top 100 this year. Did you see that?
No.
He was like, I know you don't care about that. He was like 81 though.
He's a great, when I say great foot, he is one of the, no doubt about it, Hall of Fame players. Unbelievable player. And I'm just saying, look, I get it. You got to move on. It's 36, but I guarantee you Sonny Styles is not as good as Bobby Wagner, like right away. He might turn into a great player in 2 or 3 years, similar to what I was saying with Arbel Reese, but he's not going to be Bobby Wagner at 35 right away. Never mind Bobby Wagner at 25.
Yeah.
So, he was arguably their best player last year without Jaden Daniels. So I do not like Washington's roster. And I do not. Adam Peters got snowed by that upset over Detroit and thought they were close. And the loss to the Eagles in the NFC Championship game should have alerted him. This happened twice in recent years. Same thing happened. You remember when the Giants had the one season with Saquon? They made the playoffs. Daniel Jones played pretty good. They won a playoff game.
Yep.
They
and then they got destroyed by the Eagles, right?
They got destroyed by the Eagles, and they weren't honest with themselves. Minnesota, that was the year before Brian Flores, and they had, what was his name? Oh, man. Just one of the worst defenses I've ever seen. I'll come up with the name. Cover 2 guy. Oh, man, it was bad. But anyway, like terrible defense. And Daniel Jones had probably his best game as a Giant, and they win a playoff game, and they're all excited, and they come into Philadelphia against a great Eagles team, and they just got boat raced. And they should have been honest with themselves. We upset a team that was ripe for the picking. It doesn't mean that much. Let's keep going. But they bought into it. And it set them back. Same thing happened to Washington. Look, Detroit would have killed them if they were healthy. They weren't healthy. And the Commanders deserve credit for taking advantage of the situation. Not wrong, nothing wrong with that. But you can't buy into it when the next week you're not even on the field with the Eagles. You're not close. You got lucky. And they should have went back to Bill. And instead they signed a bunch of veteran players. Oh, we're right there. And it's just, and now their roster stinks. So you gotta be, I said, how many times do I say it? It's really hard to be honest with yourself.
Yeah, it is. And you can be deceived easily, as you also just pointed out. All right, Johnny Mac, good stuff there on the NFC East. Real quick, we have Mark Farzetta coming up. Actually, let me get this super chat, and then I'll try and do this real quick before we get Farz. We might run out of time. Bone the Bonehead. What's up, Jeff Bone? One of our best supporters here on JAKIB Sports. We appreciate you, Jeff Bone. He says this, Z and John, thoughts on Tyler Steen in the offensive guard position?
Yeah, I think Tyler, Ed Donatel was the name I was looking for. What a disaster. He's never coached again, by the way. And he's been around for 40 years and that's how big of a disaster it was. But I just wanted to circle back.
Yeah.
I've talked about Tyler a lot. I don't know why people haven't figured out he had a pretty good season last year. I think he's one of their best young players. I think he's one of the few ascending players on offense, as I've said. He's going to get paid a lot of money. I don't think it's going to be here. This is the final year of his rookie deal. Guards are getting paid now. But yeah, I think I don't think Tyler Steen's an issue at all. I don't think you should have any worries. He's only going to get better. And he was pretty good last year.
Yeah, I think Steen was fine, Jeff Bone. I don't think he'll be here long term because it seems that though that's the position that the Eagles rotate out. But maybe there's a world where Landon Dickerson's not kept around and or he retires or whatever the case might be.
That's possible.
And I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they end up doing there with Tyler Steen. But I have no problems with him, Bonehead. I think he's pretty good. John, real quick before Farzy gets in here, and this might be tough for you to do off the top. Anybody you're thinking for offensive and defensive rookie of the year this year as big contributors on their respective sides of the ball?
Well, it's got to be Mekhi on offense.
No, I'm not talking about for the Eagles. I'm talking about for the NFL.
Oh, for the NFL.
Yeah.
Boy, I have to think about that because it's mainly about opportunity. So
I'll give you a couple names just to refresh. All right. Mendoza. I'll go offense first. Mendoza, obviously. Jeremiah Love. Carnell Tate, Jadarian Price, Jordan Tyson, Casey Concepcion, Mekhi Lemon, Denzel Boston, Omar Cooper, Carson Beck, Drew Aller, Antonio Williams. That's a list from our buddy Ben Solak did over on ESPN.
Boy, it's so tough. I mean, Mendoza's not scheduled to start the season. They want to use Kirk Cousins as the starter. Now, we know how that works. They're going to be a bad team. So it depends how early he gets in. And then the quarterback has the big advantage. But I think the Raiders are a bad team. So I don't think he's going to look great. Then you have the other two. There were three players I loved in the draft. Jeremiah Love, Caleb Downs, and then a little bit underneath them was Carnell Tate. So Love was picked third and Tate was picked fourth. Love would be my pick, but he's on Arizona. He's the best player in the draft, but he's on Arizona.
Yeah,
how much can he do?
Tough. That's going to be tough for him as a running back too. I mean, we're a position where you really need good players around you.
And Tate's going to a place where Cam Ward is throwing him the football.
Can I give you my sleeper? It's tough because he won't be the number one option, but Jordan Tyson with the Saints.
Yeah, I think people skipping steps with Tyler Shuck, but I understand the way you're going with that.
I think Kellen Moore is going to do a pretty good job there. I don't know. It's more of a projection on Kellen Moore, John, than it is on Shuck.
I'm going to pick Mekhi Lemon. No, I'm joking. I'm going to pick Tate.
Carnell Tate. Tate with the Titans. I could see that. I could see that.
He'll get numbers, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, exactly.
There'll probably be a bunch of interceptions. They'll lose a bunch of games, but somebody's got to pile up numbers. 20-point score on a bad NBA team. So I'll go Carnell Tate. I'd like to go Jeremiah Love, but
yeah, I know you like
Jeremiah you need something. And boy, Arizona might be the worst team in the NFL.
Any thoughts on the defensive side real quick before we get to Farzy? Probably down.
Defensively, I think, obviously you have a number. You're talking about top 10 guys, David Bailey, who's a sack guy. You talk about Arbel Reese with the Giants, Sonny Styles with the Commanders, who we just talked about, and then Caleb Downs. Hey, I think Caleb Downs was the second best player in the draft. Cowboys had a disastrous defense. They're going to use him all over. They're going to play him at safety. They're going to play him in the slot. And they're going to get better under Christian Parker, even if it's, 32, whatever they were, up to 16. They're going to be average. And he's going to make some plays. So I'm going with my guy, Caleb Downs.
Yeah.
That was easy for me.
I think that's fair. All right, good stuff there, Johnny Mac. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. Thanks to our super chats. Appreciate all you guys. The last football Friday of the stone cold off season. The Eagles will go to camp next week. They report on Tuesday.
Cold. I think of Steve Austin.
There you go.
I hear breaking glass.
Tuesday they report, John. Wednesday their practice. Wednesday, Thursday they practice. He said Friday it's a walkthrough, no availability to the media. Saturday practice, and then Sunday the players will be off. So that's the first look of their training camp week number 1. Let's go to Mark Farzetta, set to join us here on Birds 365. He joins us now. You can follow him at Mark Farzetta. Listen to the Farzy Show, absolute great sports talk show here in the mornings. Mark, how you doing this morning, my friend? Good to talk to you.
Yeah, there we go. Stone Cold
Fantastic. I'm doing fantastic. What's going on, boys? How you feeling?
Good to see you, buddy. How
to see you as well,
excited are
John.
you? We had a lot of stuff. We had the World Cup in Philadelphia. We had the All-Star game. This was a far busier off season, I think, in Philadelphia sports than it has been, simply because the Eagles run this town. We had some other things to pay attention to. Is that taking some of the juice off for you?
No, because as you said, the Eagles run this town. It's really the Eagles and then just about everything else. I mean, the Eagles are just in a whole other stratosphere when it comes to, I hate to use the term, but like what moves the needle. It's what people care about. You can have the slightest opinion of the Eagles on a day where other teams might be competing for a playoff spot and the Eagles are going to win. I will say this though, I do not like, generally speaking, the Eagles chant at other sporting events.
I agree with you. I think it's disrespectful.
As a performer, John, I don't like somebody chanting the name of another show in town. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm 100% with you.
Here's where I do like it. If, let's just say, the Phillies it's like 2015 and the Phillies are just bad and whatever, then go ahead and do it. All right. If you're at a road game for a Philadelphia team, non-Eagles, like let's say you're at a Phillies game at Wrigley Field and you want to be like, hey, how many people are here? How many people are here from Philly? And you do an Eagles chant, you see who finishes, and you go, yeah, all right, there we go.
Fine.
That I like.
Yeah,
that I like.
Fine.
But to the point, it was the first time in my life, earlier this Phillies season, I had ever heard a Flyers chant at a non-Flyers game. Flyers, of course. We're getting some headlines here.
Yeah,
so,
I disagree with you guys. It's a kick in the ass to the other teams. If your team is not good, you're not. But when the Sixers play great, Farzy, or they're deep in the playoffs, you'll hear Sixers chant. When the Phillies are playing great, you'll hear Phillies chants. Like you just said, the Flyers.
You'll hear Eagles chants. The Phillies have been good for a while.
The Eagles have been the best team.
Chants.
Eagles have been.
Well, the Eagles don't even. The Eagles don't even have to be the best team for people to do the chant. I mean, that's the thing that drives me banana sandwich.
To Mark's point,
right. You guys sound like, oh man, get off my lawn.
When WrestleMania was here, have the Eagles chants. When Shane Gillis is drawn 75 stinking thousand people to Lincoln Financial, have the Eagles chant. When the Phillies are playing the Yankees tonight, and by the way, I'm a Yankees fan, so start the Yankees chant. But I'm okay with supporting the Phillies. I'm not okay with supporting the Eagles. Try to get the Phillies over the top. Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah,
outside
you're a brilliant man,
the city,
John.
Yeah,
I'm with you there. With you
but
there.
you know what? I'm not going to call it the V word because that I banned from my personal vocabulary. I hate that word.
Yeah,
I hate that word. You know what?
I've never used it. I've never used it.
Good. Because you're the only one in Philadelphia sports radio who's never used it, by the way.
I always like asking the question if it's okay. Like, I look at my dad. My dad is a stoic figure. Okay, Joe Farzetta is a stoic figure. All right, not just because he's my dad. That's just how he is. I could never imagine him going to another man and being like, "Is it okay that I do this?" Like, no, go to hell. Like, that's the way I've always looked at it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we're agreeing a lot. We gotta stop this.
This is ludicrous.
I can make up my own mind. Thank you very much. I'm not going to ask permission.
Did you see the Odyssey yet? Maybe we could talk about that and discuss. No? Okay.
No, I did see Obsession though. Did you see Obsession?
The TV show?
No, the movie. It's a big thing now.
Oh, is it? No, I missed that one. I saw the Odyssey. Yeah.
They spent like $750,000 on this movie. It's sort of like a horror movie, but it's not really a horror movie. And they've made almost $500 million on
Good
this.
Lord.
Yeah.
And you know what? I went to see the Odyssey. People were doing the Eagles chant. Odysseus is trying to make it home. They're doing the Eagles chant. It's ridiculous.
I'm not buying that one, Farzy. All right, Farzy, speaking of the Eagles, we're a week out here from camp. What's top of mind for you, man? We're going to camp. We've had an a long off season. We've talked about everything under the sun with this offense, the running game, Sean Mannion, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, you name it. What do you think the Eagles have to get right this year to have a better, more successful season in 26 than they did last year?
Sean Mannion. They have to get Sean Mannion right. Like, it's really wild to me that you go through an offseason where there's like interest in Brian Dable, there's interest in Mike McDaniels, and both those guys are like, no. And it's like, right?
By the way, they both said no.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mark's correct.
Well, I think, did they even talk to Dable? They did a Zoom with McDaniels.
They talked to Dable. Dable's close to Nick Sirianni, but ironically, he became even closer with Robert Saleh. Like, they're really good friends. Like, he told the Eagles right away his plan, if he didn't get another head coaching job, was to go with Robert Saleh. So they knew.
Okay. But bottom line is, those are two guys that have had successful offenses in the NFL. Those are two guys that have been head coaches in the NFL. Supposedly, they were interested in both of them, right? And both those guys were like, no, I'll barely even get on a Zoom with you. Don't even, So all of a sudden, the guys with those resumes are like, okay, win some, lose some. But Sean Mannion, who's been a coach for 20 minutes in the NFL, is, this is the guy. This is the guy. Like, that is such a ginormous storyline for me. And I know it's for a lot of people as well, but like, just in terms of what you were hunting and what you actually gathered. That's a big gap there. And then all of a sudden, you want to start banging the drum for, man, when we started doing our homework on Sean Mannion, let me tell you, these guys were like, this kid's a genius. This guy really knows his stuff. He's such a genius that he didn't get a phone call from anybody else about another position or the coaching staff anywhere else around the league. You guys give me an offensive coordinator gig.
I am stunned, Mark, how quickly everyone has normalized this hire from the standpoint, as you just pointed out, where they started to where they ended. And the fact that, I like your description, he's been a coach in this league for 20 minutes. He's never called a play in his life. And now he's calling plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. And we have normalized this in a stunning, quickly amount of time. Now, I know it'll change if it's ugly early on. Mm-hmm. It'll change just as quickly. But I really am shocked at how many people are saying, and it became, this makes some sense, the way they've spun it. Come on, this is complete spin. Mm-hmm. They wanted Mike McDaniel. Agree. And you go from wanting Mike McDaniel to saying, this is our best shot. And maybe he is. Maybe he's the next Ben Johnson. Maybe he's the next Sean McVay. Maybe he's the next young coach, but great young offensive mind. Mm-hmm. But boy, there's got to be some more pushback and saying, what is this?
Yeah.
The whole thing was Kevin Patullo had no experience play calling. So let's get a guy with less experience.
When they hired Mannion, the first thought I had was, okay, guys. We know everyone's been talking about get somebody with more experience, but hold on. What about less? What about less experience? What if we went the opposite? What if we zigged while everyone's asking us to zag? Here's what I think helped the situation. Well, two things. He was a quarterback, so there's he speaks quarterback. He's been thinking about being a coach for a long time. He's been filing away little things that he's picked up from Sean McVay or Kevin O'Connell or Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan.
The smart guy, because he doesn't.
The
have
smartest
the
guys in the room. Yeah. Everyone's darling. The guy holding the clipboard, right? Or iPad now. I don't know. But that helped. That he speaks quarterback. All right, fine. I think Jalen did him a huge favor when he was talking about, and Jalen was going to get asked about the difference between Kevin Patullo and the difference between Sean Mannion and all that stuff. And whatever he said about Sean Mannion was going to make it seem like, oh, Kevin Patullo could never do this because Sean Mannion does this so great, But I think there was a very fair point made by Jalen Hurts when he was first asked about Sean Mannion. And he said, the why. The why is important. Kevin Patullo literally said in a press conference, sometimes you call plays just to call them. And it's like, huh? Wait, what was that?
Yeah, that's the running game. I was just ripping people on that yesterday. We finally disagreed, Mark. Like
What's
every
that?
NFL team. Like I remember, because I was sitting there and I said, oh, this is not going to go over well. He said, sometimes you run the ball just to run the ball.
Right. Okay, sorry. Yeah, run the ball to run the ball. But on that same note, when you can explain the reason why to your player, the player is not asking why necessarily to challenge. He's asking to understand. I mean, we've seen athletes like this. The Sixers right now are talking about Jaylen Brown in that world. Like, is he the guy that needs to be the smartest guy in the room? He pushes back, all that stuff. Well, then be ready to explain why to him. Same thing with Jalen Hurts, because I believe Jalen Hurts does his homework. I believe Jalen Hurts has in his mind a way to attack a defense, and when something contradicts that, he wants to know why, because maybe he's missing something. Not, you're a big fat idiot, tell me why. It's, wait, why would we do that? Why would we be under center in this situation when this other thing has worked? I think that explanation helps Sean Mannion be put in a bigger and better light. I think Hurts did him a big favor in that regard.
I agree with you, but the funny thing is, you know what that was about, Mark? That was a criticism of the entire organization. That was the passive-aggressive Jalen Hurts. That was, why the fuck are we doing this in season when we practice a different style of football the entire offseason? That was the pushback. What he was upset by. He's like, now I'm okay with it because we get to practice it. Now we get to do it.
But don't you want, I mean, I get what you're saying, John, but don't you want him to do whatever it takes to win in the given year? Like, what they were doing
you'd like
wasn't
that.
working, you know what I mean? So it's like, I get it. You want to practice it, but
I get it. All I'm saying is,
it too.
I get it from both sides, but from his side, it's like, why the hell are we changing mid-season when we haven't prepared for this? That was his pushback, which I understand. That makes sense to me. To Zander's point, all right, that's what the head coach wants to do. You got to do your best. You should acquiesce to that. Unfortunately, I mean, Jeff Stoutland didn't either. They're like, why are we doing this? Why? We just won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't think Nick Sirianni has a lot of legs to stand on, or I won't say Nick. I'll say the organization, because the organization has had to make so many different changes, as well documented with the offensive coordinator and the play caller in Jalen Hurts' tenure here. And then you go to a point where the guy that people trust more than anybody, Jeff Stoutland, isn't even invited into the room when they're trying to make changes. Like, if I'm a player, I'm very skeptical of that. And if I'm Jalen Hurts, not just the offensive line, but I'm Jalen Hurts, I'm Saquon Barkley, I'm very skeptical of that. I'm like, hold on a second. You literally, years ago, fired yourself from being the play caller, supposedly got more involved this past year after 2 other offensive coordinator changes, and you're going to have the secret sauce to the offense? Like, I'm very skeptical of that. And you're changing the secret sauce with Kevin Patullo, who seems to be in over his head? Like, I don't fault Jalen Hurts. I don't fault players for being skeptical of what the front office or the coaching staff was doing last year, because it left a lot of us miffed, to say the least.
Yeah, it's fair to debate it. But hey, until they remove him, the head coach is in charge. So the point being, he made the decision. This is the way they're going, and it's everybody else's job to fall in line. And then if it looks like crap, you blame the head coach, and everything's structured properly. But I do understand why Jalen Hurts was like, I'm not comfortable with this because we haven't repped it. He talked about time on task a million times. He's like, time on task. Let's rep it. And then he's fine with it. And we'll see if it's better this year. My larger question is, like, why is the assumption that teams caught up versus the offensive line was banged up? They still won 11 games, Mark. They still sat their starters in week 18 against a bad Giants team. So that's probably 12 wins if they're trying. Let's be honest. With all those issues, and most of it's defense, the defense was great. The offense was what it was. But why do you assume people caught up versus this doesn't work anymore? Like that's where I have the problem.
I think a lot of it, when people talk about predictability, I feel like a lot of people generally throw that at Kevin Patullo. But I think what doesn't get talked about is how defenses, and there's probably no better example than the Chargers game last year, defenses could make Jalen Hurts predictable. Where if we put a guy on the line of scrimmage and drop it back, Jalen's not expecting that, we got him. I remember Robert Saleh doing that when he was coaching the Jets against the Eagles when they lost against the Jets in the Meadowlands 3 years ago, I think it is now.
Yeah, that was a bad interception. It
was really bad. And the idea of not liking throwing over the middle and all that stuff, I think Jalen also became a lot of predictable, not just the play calling, but the way the plays were executed. So I think a lot of that's got to change. I think a lot of that does have to do with the offensive line. I think a lot of that has to do with also the league catching up to an Eagles team that in general was slowing down. Saquon was getting hit before the line of scrimmage at an alarming rate, more so than he was the previous year in his 2,000-yard season. I think Saquon was also trying to bounce back from, people don't realize, 482 touches, regular season, postseason combined in the year they won the Super Bowl. That's a heavy workload. I remember saying going into last season that was a huge concern. So if it was a concern then for me, I feel a lot better about, all right, maybe he's a little bit more fresh going into this season. And probably the greatest endorsement to an offensive change from last year to this year is the fact that the Eagles moved on from Jeff Stoutland decided thanks but no thanks for the Eagles and moved on. And this offensive line that I think a lot of people would have expected to be, they're going to be a stick in the mud about it. They're not going to be receptive to change, and I can understand why. They did Stoutland dirty last year and all that. Lane Johnson isn't just okay with moving on. He seems flat out. He's thrilled, yeah. Giddy. Yeah. He's giddy. I forget the phrase. What the hell did he say in his press conference? Me likey. Lane Johnson said me likey when he talked about the blocking scheme that Chris Cooper wants to run and Sean Mannion wants to run. They're flat out excited about it. We talk about Jalen Hurts endorsing Sean Mannion and all that. The offensive line being excited about what Chris Cooper is bringing here is probably the best endorsement you could probably have, because they have every right to be, pissed off about the way the situation with Stoutland was handled last year, the fact that Stoutland's not here this year, and they're cool. They're like, not only are they cool with it, they're excited.
You're right, Mark, but they're excited because they're going to get some help.
Yeah, they're going to have to do less. Yeah. They're not going to be called upon.
It's not necessarily going to be better.
Right.
Maybe the point is, if you want to defend Stout, the point is they're taking advantage of the talent they had, because most teams in the NFL have to help their tackles all the time. The Eagles win in every game. It's probably their biggest luxury. So we don't got to worry about our tackles when Lane's out there.
Yeah. I think Lane said, first time I have guard help in my whole career.
Yeah. That's why he's excited. So you're right. And I've said, and the biggest excitement for me that I think Eagles fans should have was same thing, offensive line, but different guys. Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson, because they weren't miserable in the offseason. Like, they were in so much pain last year.
Mhm.
They were just miserable all the time because they're in pain.
Yeah, especially for aging Lane Johnson. I mean, obviously he's excited about that part of it.
Yeah. And
It's
those
amazing what a
guys-
trip to Colombia will do for you.
Yeah. Colombian stem cells, Medellin stem cells.
Medellin, yeah.
I don't know if anything else is going on down there.
Hopefully not.
Nothing else is going on.
I don't
Nothing.
know, man.
Don't ask.
You come in with some Medellin stem cells in the luggage. It better be that and that alone. You don't want to hide anything else coming back from Medellin. But those guys are happy and they're having fun, and that tells me they're not as in as much pain, and that's a good thing for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah,
that's my biggest positive.
The offensive line. Look, I am optimistic about Sean Mannion. I don't just think that he's going to be a cure-all, but I am optimistic about it because he has been a quarterback. He has played in some great systems. He's certainly been a part of great systems before, and they're bringing that here to Philadelphia. And I like that idea. The offense needs to take a step forward as far as its evolution. I am thrilled to hear Cam Jurgens talking like he's healthy. Landon Dickerson, same thing, that they went to I don't know if you call it extreme, but they certainly thought outside the box and getting the attention they needed. I like hearing the optimism from Lane Johnson. I am curious about how much of a distraction to the offense A.J. Brown may or may not have been. If this offense is going to excel because they don't feel like they have to force feed him just to keep him appeased or anything like that. And then one of the other number one things here with this offense is they looked a hell of a lot like a Chip Kelly offense in this regard last year. A Chip Kelly 3-and-out in the Chip Kelly era, of course, was like standard time 20 seconds, right?
Yeah.
30 seconds. Yeah. Last year it was like 90, right? But the defense would be right back on the field. And all the credit in the world to Vic Fangio. He doesn't want to take that into consideration. Play, if you're out there, you play. Simple as that. That mentality that everybody loves. But you can't tell me that didn't matter. That absolutely mattered. And exactly. And as the game was going on, you saw these guys just look tanked. And to stay on the field as an offense helps your defense tremendously. And I'll quote, our friend Seth Joyner, man, you're on the bench before you could even taste the Gatorade, and you got to go back on the field as a defense. And that was something that I thought rang true throughout the Eagles season, especially really in the second half of the year. So a way to keep drives going, not have 3-and-outs, keep the defense fresh and playing at the top of their game. Because, with the Eagles being in the lead in a lot of these games late in that fourth quarter, the defense is going to be called upon to make sure they get shut down that offense. And they can't be gassed and doing that at the same time.
Well, it's funny. We never talk about the defense because we have no concerns over the defense.
There's a concern. There's one big concern.
All right, let me hear it.
Jalen Carter.
Ooh.
Okay. All
right. So the thing you asked me about, Zander, about what I'm thinking about training camp and all that. Number one is Sean Mannion. I just want to hear that everything's copacetic, everything's good, everything's simpatico. Jalen and him are best friends. They're running a great system, and they're eating ice cream and talking about puppy dogs together. All that's great. The other side of that is Jalen Carter, because I talked to Brandon Graham 2 weeks ago. And I asked him about Brandon Graham coming back. One thing on Brandon I'll say is he said he's not coming back unless he's in training camp. Like he wants to go through the full season. Okay, we'll see how that goes. The other thing is I asked him about Jalen Carter. I said, all the parties at hand. What do you know about Jalen Carter? How do you think this goes? And I was hoping for Howie and the Eagles, love him, extremely talented. He's going to be great. There's no way they let him go anywhere. I want him here in Philly. I think he ends up in Philly. Nope. It was, he's going to get paid, and I hope it's here. There was so much doubt about whether or not he actually comes back to Philadelphia. Jalen Carter actually comes back to Philadelphia, that it raises my eyebrows. And even a month ago when we were talking about this a lot, and what was it, Jeffrey Simmons signs his contract, it kind of sets the market. That doesn't happen with Howie. Howie sets the market, usually. Yeah. In a position. So that gave me the first pause. But then you also see the Jared Verse deal, obviously giving up Jared Verse to bring in Myles Garrett, and the Eagles apparently didn't want to give up Jalen Carter. So they're not. It shows me a great
I don't,
hesitancy.
Well, you're right about the hesitancy.
Okay.
Now, Cleveland, from what I understand, they wanted an edge rusher. They weren't interested.
Okay.
They wanted an edge rusher. So
Fair enough.
I don't think that ever got off the ground. But yeah, it's been mentioned a couple times, like if with Myles Garrett first from Cleveland, back 2 years ago, do you have to give up that type of player? It's always been sort of in the conversation. Micah Parsons, even more so, I think they would have given up Jalen Carter to get Micah Parsons, but very few players would reach that standard. And maybe those are the only two. And Cleveland didn't want a defensive tackle. But you're right about the hesitancy. And I think the Eagles are right to have that hesitancy, not only mainly because of the shoulder issues. You want to see if he's healthy. Plus, you want to see him increase his consistency. And he's under contract through 2027. He can't go anywhere right now. So is the juice worth the squeeze to go the Jordan Davis route, which is, look, we need to see more. If you play well, we're going to pay you. We're going to set the market. And maybe he goes out and has that career year. Mm-hmm. Or does it become a drag? Because it can go both ways. Jordan Davis proved it can go a positive way.
Right.
And then they got to pay the Jerry Jones tax. They got to pay more. But they have questions, and I understand why they have questions. So if you're Howie Roseman, what do? Just pay him or say we need to see more?
I said at the end of last year I wanted to see more from him. I mean, you can't be spitting on a quarterback week one before your first snap. You can't have the surgeries, for your shoulder. I need to see more. I was campaigning for the Jordan Davis treatment in all of this. They gave it to him, but apparently he wants more. There's been a conversation about a holdout. There's been conversation about a hold in, which I love that phrase.
Hold in, by the way, it can't hold out because that under the current CBA, remember back in the old days, Mark, these guys would hold out and then they'd come to an agreement and you waive all the fines. Well, you're not allowed to waive the fines anymore. They put that in the CBA. So nobody holds out. They hold in. You show up and you don't practice. That's going to be the interesting part. That's what he did in minicamp. He showed up and he didn't practice. But you could still use the shoulders. Well, he's still coming back. So you have that excuse. But if he comes to camp and he's there and he's not practicing, we got a situation, as they called it with Hassan Reddick. A situation.
If he thinks he's going to get that Simmons money, I don't know how much the fines are going to affect him. If he really thinks there's a deal that's going to be made out there. The other thing is, if you know you got $27 million in your back pocket, not this year but next year, when you obviously pick that up, that's a nice little incentive, a carrot dangled in front of him on the other side of it, here on the positive side of it for the Eagles. I remember Fletcher Cox years ago had sort of a mini hold in. I think this was 2017, 2018 maybe. And he was there. He wasn't exactly the most coachable in that moment. He certainly wasn't the most available in the locker room. I can remember asking reporters, "You want to talk to me? How much you paying?" I remember that. I was one of them. So I could see it going more that route with Jalen Carter. But here's the really interesting thing about it for me. In my entire life, I can't remember a time where I trusted a front office more so than I trust this Eagles front office right now. And Howie has got the track record for that when you talk about Super Bowl appearances since Chip Kelly and you talk about Super Bowl victories since Chip Kelly and the depth of these rosters and hitting on a lot of these picks. I mean, or more recent moves like Milton Williams might have been a miss, unfortunately, but he just flat out got paid, obviously. There's some interesting things like that, but nobody knows Jalen Carter better than the Philadelphia Eagles. And nobody knows Jalen Carter better than this front office. If they make a decision where we're not paying him, this is headed, to hell in a handbasket, that kind of thing, I know Howie's going to get a haul in return for him. So I feel like for Eagles fans, nobody wants to see the talent you have. Nobody wants to see the talent that had Patrick Mahomes running for his life in the Super Bowl go away in what you had in Jalen Carter. But if they do, you know how he's going to get top dollar for whatever they do in a trade, after, during training camp, maybe after this season. But nobody knows him better than this Philadelphia Eagles team. So I feel pretty damn good about what the future holds as it relates to Jalen Carter, whether that's him this year going out and balling out and doing what Jordan Davis did, or that's what he could bring back for the Eagles in a trade scenario.
Yeah, well said, Farzy. I agree with you, brother. I know you got to run here at 55. Farzy, give me your
Good Lord.
Give me your expectation for this team this year, Farzy. They're going to the Super Bowl? Are your expectations down after last year? What do you think coming into the year here?
My expectation, and here's where I'll say about Sean Mannion. You give Jalen Hurts an offensive coordinator that doesn't draw his plays up in crayon, they go pretty far. So I'm going to go ahead and say that the Eagles are at least competing for the NFC Championship again. And they have a phenomenal defense, and I trust Vic Fangio more so than maybe anybody else in the city of Philadelphia to go out there and do his job at a very high level. So I think that this team is headed for another conference championship game at the very least in the upcoming season.
Nice.
That's how I'm feeling.
Big one there.
Yeah. And say hi to Seth for me and D Gun.
I absolutely will, brother.
And a word of advice. I think you should start every single one of your shows with the breaking glass and just come out to that.
Boom, 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 boom. Absolutely, man. Let's go.
All right, Farzetta. Thank you, brother.
Great seeing you, boys.
Man. We'll talk to you soon.
See you, man.
Later, man.
Have a great weekend.
There's Mark Farzetta joining us right here on Birds 365. Great stuff there. Appreciate Farzy joining me as we get closer to training camp here. Johnny Mac, interesting thought there from Farzy on Jalen Carter there at the end. I kind of agree with a lot of what he was saying there, but it will be interesting to see. And also BG, what BG had to say. That was cool.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jalen Hurts comes into this as well. I always talk about the greatness of Howie Roseman starts with the contingencies. Like he's already thinking about if this doesn't work and we have to move on at the quarterback position. Well, how do you do that? You do that by amassing enough draft capital to get up in the top of the draft to get a player you like. And how do you amass draft? Well, he's already started with AJ, but what if I've said it all along? What if you can get a first round pick plus Jordan Davis plus Moro Ojomo versus just Jalen Carter at 40 million and Jordan Davis at 26, 27 million? What would you rather have?
All right. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's why Howie gets paid the big bucks. It's interesting, John, too. Cilio brought this up to me. It was tough for me to rebut it. You know how normally when a player leaves, like you can say, well, a player benefited from playing next to another player. In the case of defensive tackles, maybe Moro Ojomo is benefiting from playing next to Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. Or in Milton Williams' case, maybe he was benefiting from playing next to Jalen Carter in 2024. Well, if you look at those two guys in their first years after leaving each other, it looks more like Carter benefited more from playing next to Milton than Milton benefited from playing next to Carter, because Milton had a pretty damn good year after leaving Jalen Carter, which would say that his talent can stand on its own. Well,
I agree with that part of it. Milton proved that he can stand on his own.
Yeah.
The part that he was, it's great to play next to Milton Williams because he's a really good football player.
Right.
But I think Jalen Carter's downgrade had to do with his shoulders, not Milton Williams. I mean, nobody disputes the gifts, similar to Josh Allen at the quarterback position. Nobody disputes the gifts, the physical gifts that Jalen Carter has. Nobody. I mean, nobody. They're immense. Does he need to be more consistent? Yes. Couldn't lift weights last year. He didn't have surgery, just to correct one thing Mark said, but he had PRP injections in both shoulders. He couldn't lift weights. That's pretty important. Ask Dan about that. He's a defensive tackle. If he couldn't lift weights, and he's got to go against Darnell Wright on Sunday,
Yeah, right.
he's going to get washed out. So, if he was healthy, I would entertain that. He was not healthy. And that's not an excuse. He was not healthy. He was not himself. But Milton absolutely proved he could stand on his own. He's just a damn good football player. But I kind of knew that anyway. I talked about him all the time.
You did. But it was fair to say about Milton, like, is he going to be able to do it now on a different defense?
Well, I didn't think he'd live up to what he did. I mean, I admit that. I didn't think he was that good.
Yeah.
But
He played pretty damn good.
Yeah. And I think it's more of a question with Morrow than Milton, because Morrow obviously performed at a very high level and is a tremendous passer. But I'm not sure he's a 3-down player. Like, I'm sure Milton Williams is a 3-down player. I think Morrow is a great pass rusher, and he still needs some work holding up against the run. But that was the knock on him coming out of Texas. That's why he was a 7th-round pick, because he's an undersized guy. It's funny to call a 290-pound person undersized, but in the modern NFL,
yeah, right.
That's undersized.
Yeah, it is.
So, but Jalen Carter, like I say, just physical gifts. He's the most talented player on the Philadelphia Eagles for his position. But you got to live up to it. He was getting there.
Yeah.
In 2024, saved the season. I think everybody's happy. But even in 2024, he wasn't as consistent as the Eagles would have liked. He improved the conditioning. He was able to play a lot of reps, but the consistency is what sets the Jeffrey Simmons apart, the Chris Joneses apart, Dexter Lawrence. He needs to be more consistent. I don't even worry about the spitting thing. I know people worry about it, and Mark brought it up. I mean, it's dumb, but it's not like he's going out there. It was a high-profile situation, but it's in the first game. But, did he spit on anybody else the rest of the – it's not, I
think Laurie cares.
Well, I think he cares from, the reputation you don't want him doing that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, is that indicative that he's going to spit on people consistently moving forward? I don't think there's too much relevance to that. He got caught up. He got baited by Dak Prescott, and good for Dak. He baited him, got him off the field. You got to learn from it. I think he has learned from it.
Fair enough. All right, Johnny Mac, your final thoughts on this Football Friday. Training camp begins next week.
Yeah, hold and watch. Some BG, we'll see if BG gets signed. Only a couple days left, so they got to make that move. But you can do it right before camp if they're going to do it. And the tough numbers game for BG. At some point, maybe this is the time you got to rip off the Band-Aid, and maybe you don't have him as the guy you can call up in case of emergency, but they're pretty deep at defensive end and defensive tackles. So might be the time to rip off that Band-Aid.
Might be. Johnny Mac, great stuff, man. We will talk to you on Monday, and then training camp next week, my friend. I'm looking forward to it. We'll be following all your work, listening to you here on Birds 365. Should be pretty good. John, have a great weekend, my friend.
All right. Thanks, all.
All right, Johnny Mac. Thank you, brother. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen joining us right here on Birds 365. How's everybody doing on this Football Friday training camp next week? Looking forward to Eagles training camp taking place. I'm excited for that. And we will see if any of these questions that will get answered, what we'll see at camp. How will Sean Mannion do? How will these receivers look with life after A.J. Brown? A lot of good stuff going on here. I'll come to the chat, see what everybody's got to say in the chat. Nolan Smith had tried. Yeah, I think he has both, doesn't he, though? I'm pretty sure he has both. Here's Rasputin. Fangio doesn't rotate DTs. His usage won't drop. He needs to hold up to 1,000 snap seasons while Fangio is here. It's a fair point. Fangio does not love to rotate DTs, all right? James Jones, good to see you, brother. We had some Commander talk today. All right, we had some Commander talk today. Rasputin says, wish you would have gotten the surgery and dealt with the rehab instead of taking it. I think you're talking about Carter there. Yeah, I don't know. I think you're talking about Carter there. Let me go to Daniel Belfield. Daniel says, 400. I wish I read this to John. Uncle alert. My bad, Daniel. Eagle and Uncle alert. I like the Uncle alert on the gems or the jewels, whatever the hell they're called here on YouTube. All right. Yeah, Rasputin, I agree, but I think you're right. He wanted the contract. Now, Mike, will it cost him? I'm not exactly sure. Nolan Smith did say his shoulder. Yeah, it's both. He did have the triceps, but he did have the shoulder too. He had the shoulder too, which I think goes hand in hand. You know what I mean? Like when your triceps are bad, your shoulder probably tries to overcompensate for whatever weakness you have from the shoulder. You know, if you're somebody with back pain, you might understand that. Your hips might or something like that, you know, might overcompensate. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm down here. I don't think my service was very good today. Farzy was cutting out, but I don't think it was Farzy. I think it was me. I like Nolan too. Original Philly. By the way, Original Philly, shut your bitch ass up. I heard you. How many references to Entourage? I made 2 references to Entourage because I watched a couple episodes this week. Original Philly. Shut your bitch ass up. How many times you gonna say that? Yeah, I don't know. My internet's not good here. I'm not in my place anymore. I told you guys that I had to get out of there for the weekend. So my wife's at one of those. It's like not a DMV. It's like one of those. Social security offices or something. I mean, God bless her. Streaming in 5K. No, I'm definitely not right now. I don't think I am, at least. I don't think my internet's very good down here. My internet in my new home, me and Celia, it's amazing Celia's internet even works. Yesterday we did he was like, my internet's been bad this week. So I had him do the speedtest.net or whatever it's called. And I did mine, and it was 2,550 upload and download for me. And then Cilio did his. It was like 200 download and 78 upload. I'm like, how is your show even on the air? How is it even working at all? Yeah, you're right, Jerry. I will. If I want to talk about Entourage, I will. An Original Philly. Dude's always crying about something. Dude's always fucking crying. This week it's been Original Philly and that stiff Bobby. Some dork named Bobby who showed up in the chat and started crying more than anybody I've ever seen. Tell that dork to shut the fuck up. Goofy ass. All right, well. Training camp next week. What are you guys looking to see? Wednesday, Thursday, there'll be no full morning show. No full morning show. All right. I'll probably be live for 45 to an hour. And then we'll do a full show at night. Here's Curtis Z. I'm dying for some news at a camp. Who's getting snaps where? What the offense? I agree with you. I agree, man. I agree. I don't cry. All right, Original. You've been crying. Tony, what's up, brother? I just got the call from this morning, actually, before the show. I was talking to shout out to that lady. She was working early. I was talking to Sioka, who's got my vet right now. So they stopped working on it because it surpassed $45,000 estimate. So they're trying to get the approval from the insurance company to total it, or they'll have to continue. If it gets anywhere above like 55, I think it's going to be totaled. So I hope that thing is totaled, dude. I need that thing to be totaled. I'm not here many mornings. I give you credit. I don't know why you give me credit, but I appreciate it, NJ. I appreciate it. You know I love you, brother. You know I love you. I haven't been on YouTube much, so I haven't caught in many of the streams, but I always try and catch them when I see them, brother. You know, I always try and catch them when I see them. You know, you guys want to do a fantasy league? I would do one for JAKIB Nation. Look at this. Kanzu. I can't wait for the season. Sun should be here in time for the first game. New Eagle fan incoming. Let's go. Get him a little Eagle onesie for week 1, dude. That's classic. Congratulations, Kanzu. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, Daz, I'd like to do that, but I can't do that. You should put a router. Jerry, you're dealing with Cilio here. I can't. First off, he's all the way across the country. All right, but it says Sundays for the Birds and order his first jersey. Nice, nice. That's classic. That is classic. I predict Mayan. That's a good prediction. Mayan, that is a great prediction. Mayan, can I steal this from you? I'll give you credit. I'm stealing this from you. I'm stealing that. Oh my gosh. That is freaking great. Mayan says, I predict AJ catches a hammy and sits out for joint practice. I think he's right. I think he's 100% right. Yeah, Daz, I'm not gonna. Don't worry. I'm working it. I'm working it. Sills need to take his ass to the local library to stream. Yeah, that might work better. Just bought an AJ Brown jersey on sale for $60 from $200. What's your plan? You swapping the name on the back to Campbell? You swapping the name on the back to Campbell? The last Mayan left. Yeah, are you guys blocking? Daz, no blocking Mayan. I know that you don't like Mayan, but I like Mayan. All right? I like freaking Mayan. Don't make me wrench up Mayan. I'll give Mayan a freaking wrench. Daz, that's why you got a wrench, because people kept blocking you. I said, stop blocking Daz. You guys are all fucking buttercups. I might have to remove all the wrenches so nobody can block anybody. Holy crap. No blocking my boy Mayan. It's friggin', I'm stealing wrenches back this year. Dad says, I blocked him one time 20 years ago. We're still crying. Mine, is there any truth to this? Is there any truth to this? That's hilarious. Bonehead, your wrench might be gone. One day Z will wrench me. I'll wrench you up, Curtis. I like Curtis. We really don't do much blocking here. We really don't do much blocking. I blocked C24 after he sent me death threats on the day of the parade. He sent me death threats with an X through my face, my dad's face, my sister's face, who was on the parade show. Yeah, that dude's a fucking loony. Yeah, that dude was a creep. That's right. That's a perfect word for him, A-Team. He's a creep. A creeper ass. A snowflake. Original. Don't get. You're a little bit of a flake too, original Philly. You're a little bit of a flake too, original. Anybody mentions Jalen Hurts, original's like, oh, did you see the corner? Have you seen the head coach? Yes, I have. Oh, man. Yeah, there's a lot of weirdos out there. Reyes, he is the king of the Jalenites. I love Reyes, though. He's a good guy. He is. He's a good dude. Saying negative about Hurts or positive about Sirianni gets the folks riled up. It's true. That's true. I just don't get why it's like people give Jalen credit. I get it, rightfully so to some extent, because the Eagles have won a lot in his tenure. Fine. I agree. It's been probably the best tenure of any quarterback from a winning perspective. Can't the same be said about Nicholas Sirianni? Can't the same be said about Nicholas Sirianni? Yeah, Chuck, I don't get Wawa coffee much, but I got it today. I don't know what's in this thing. I was low on time, so I got the pre-made iced. This thing tastes like dessert. This thing tastes like dessert. Pretty good. Pretty good. Rashington, they defend. Yeah, it's a little weird. Everybody's defense of everybody. Like, I don't care that much. Like, I'm not going to defend. Like, I'm not going to defend. If you don't like somebody, all right, it's cool. It's your prerogative. If you love somebody, that's cool. It's your prerogative. Rich, don't get me started. I don't want to talk about it. All right, Rich? I don't want to talk about it. Sunday should be good, but before that, I don't want to talk about it. Tonight will be all right. My brother should be. I should see my brother tonight. I got some stogies. I brought some stogies down, so maybe I'll light up a stogie with my brother. All right. I'll light up a nice stogie tonight. A leather rose, maybe from Deadwood Estates or Deadwood Tobacco, Drew Estates. I don't want to talk about it, Rich. All right. Stand down. Deadwood's freaking awesome. Andalusian Bull is an incredible pull. Sweet Jane's one of my all-time favorite cigars. Sweet Jane is one of my all-time. Have you seen the new ones they put out original? It's like this new version of them or something. They got like these colored wrappings on them. Andalusian Bull is an incredible pull, by the way, by you. You know game if you're referencing the Andalusian Bull. The La Flor Dominicana. That's a fucking fire cigar. That is a fire cigar. Originally, I like cigars. I'm a cigar guy. I do like them. I haven't purchased as many as I'd like recently, but I know that you know some game if your first cigar reference in the chat was this. That's a good pull. Yeah, I've had one before. I've had a couple in my life. They're fire. I actually have a couple in my humidor at home. All right, I got a couple. What's no, thank you, sis. I'll never be getting one of those. Never, never, never. Z, does your brother golf? I mean, we got clubs. I don't know if he's golfing consistently. He's running a company right now, so he's pretty busy. But we golfed a lot back in the day. We had both lived near, or he lived somewhere that he had like there was like a country club that wasn't. I'm not a country club guy. I just feel like they're stuffy. Like I hate stuffy ass people. Like I like people who achieve success in life, and I hate fucking stuffy people. I really do. People who look at other people like dirt on the bottom of their shoe if they're not at the same level they are in life, or don't have the same money, or drive the same cars, or have the same house. I'm like, all right. Like, so we had this country club. It was real cheap. It wasn't stuffy at all because, so I liked it. And we golfed a lot. But ever since we left there, I haven't golfed much. I got a nice set of clubs though. I got a nice set of shit. What kind of clubs do I got? Mizuno. I went them Japanese, right? I think Mizuno is Japanese. Yeah, the Japanese know how to forge iron. Yes, Japanese, baby. The Japanese know how to forge irons. So I got a nice set of Mizuno. Dusty people, I'm with you, A-team. No dusties. My lounge said, yeah, that's nice. All right, do you buy from any online shops, Original Philly? I buy from a couple online. I know I'm friends with an owner of a pretty big cigar company. And I think he got me a 5-pack of them. Yeah, this is it. This is a kick-ass company. I know the owner of this company. AtlanticCigar.com. Yeah, they're tough to come by. They're sold out of them right now. I may start a lot. That'd be cool, Original Philly. Make it dope. Make it real dope. All right, folks, I'm getting out of here soon. I played MX. Nice. I got, what do I have? I don't even remember what I have. Mizuno. I think I have the JPX 923. Yeah, the new ones are 925s. I don't have those. I got the 923. I hit them pretty well. I probably shouldn't have got them, but I got such a good deal on them. I bought them. They're forged, so if you're not on your game, you're fucking not having a good day at the course. But yeah, I had the JPX. That's what I have. JPX 923s. They're sweet. They're sweet. All right, folks. I love all you guys. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Stay safe out there. All right. Hope you get together with your family, or your loved ones, or your friends, or nobody, if that's what you prefer. Your kids. Anybody? How many people in our chat have kids that are like under 7 or 8? Under 6? How many people have kids under 6 in our chat? Anybody? Anybody have kids like under like 6 years old? 8 and 2, that's dope. Do you bitch at them like you bitch at me? Holy shit. 0 kids. Wow, Raspington, that's dope. I didn't realize all 3 of your kids were that young. I knew you had kids because you've referenced them before. I got a 2-year-old. Nice, Bruce. Bruce, I'm not going to lie. I didn't expect that one out of you. 1, 4, and 6. Nice, Rasp. And 2 older girls. Nice, Bruce. Grandkids. Nice, Big Mike. All right, I might need to rely on a couple of you guys soon for some advice, maybe. All right. Without tipping my hand, I won't say anymore. I love all you guys. Football Friday. Eagles training camp next week. 51 days away from the season opener. Let's go! All you mother effers. All right? These boys need to prove it this year. They need to have a big year this year. All right? Hit the freaking like button on the way out, will you? Love all you guys. See you next time, everybody.